Today I'm fixing the power steering. It's awful. So normally when I turn the steering wheel, even just slightly, it graunches so loud. It's awful, and there's like no strength to it whatsoever. So I'm dumping the power steering fluid and trying again. This was power steering fluid that I put in only about 6 months ago, and look at the state of it. And what I did was I suctioned it out. So here's the reservoir just behind the driver headlight. Put a tube down and I sucked out all of the fluid, emptied it, refilled it with about 1 litre of clean power steering fluid. But it just didn't solve the problem. It's still really, really loud. So this time what I've done is, that is the supply line that comes down from the reservoir tube and goes onto the power steering pump. It's just got a Jubilee clip on it, 7mm, backed it off, pulled it off, and I've drained the fluid into a catch can. And then to get the rest of the fluid out now, to completely drain it. Key in. I've got, obviously that's off the ground. I've got the jack on the other side, so the other wheel is off the ground. So I can easily turn this. And by turning, I'm now turning the steering wheel, which is going to pump the fluid through the system back from the steering rack up back to the reservoir, and then it'll come from the reservoir back down that supply line back into the catch can. There we go. It's getting more out. I don't think there's much left in it. I'm gonna let that finish draining. And then I'm gonna clean this out and see if there's a filter in here. I've wiped out this with a tissue and I've had a little pull at this and it doesn't appear to come out. And you can actually take this out a little bit by just sliding it out of this bracket, just so you can have a look at it from that angle. And it doesn't really appear to be a filter. It doesn't appear to have anything in it. I can just see at an angle that way and it looks like it just goes straight down, so I'm not too sure what this is for. So that's clean up there. I've give all of this a clean here and down here. Now I'm just going to reattach this back on, put some fluid back in. So this is the main question is, what fluid do you use? I don't really know. I have trawled the internet for hours on forums, and this is the best solution I could come up with. CHF11S, which refers to having a green lid. On. Okay, so now I've got the engine running. I'm just turn the steering wheel full lock to lock, and that's pulling the bubbles out, and the fluid just drops a little bit and then just top it up again. And it's you can see it's flushing it through because the colour of the fluid is changing. And then what I'll do then is dump it again and then stick another fresh bottle in. That should be completely flushed through. So I've just dumped out the fluid for the second time, and you can see the big difference is actually, you can see the green tinge to it, but it was a little bit brown. So just gonna put this back on and then refill it again. So I've got fresh fluid back in that reservoir. Wheels are off the ground. Turn the steering wheel, but not a lot is happening. It's not really pulling the fluid through, so I just need to start the engine just for a few seconds. That's it.
Go back up again, but it went right down below the line.
Feel the difference now. Right, start the engine again.
You want that?
You can stop it now. It's been a busy last 2 hours. That didn't work. After filling the fluid up again and bleeding the air out of it, put both wheels back on, back down to the ground, and tried carrying on with it, and it just wouldn't clear the air out of the system. So I'm now having to presume that the power steering pump is actually faulty, and there it is, it's off. I'll just give you a brief overview on how I went about it. So again, dumped the fluid back out here, took the bolt out for the banjo, which is the high pressure end, which goes on there. I think that's like a 21 mil, might be something like that. Take that off, dump the fluid back out, and then you just use a pair of Gordons, and you just turn that up so that pivots up, takes the pressure off your belt. You can just slip your belt off. And then I took out these 3 bolts here, which was holding on this housing, so that sits there like that. Take them bolts out, and then this then drops away with the pump inside here. The next thing you have to do is get the pulley wheel off the pump, and what I had to do was clamp the pulley wheel in my vise with some blocks of wood so I didn't damage the pulley, and then get the 3 Allen key bolts out. One of them was very stubborn, wouldn't come out, so I did have to resort to hammering in an impact spline. It's a triple spline. Hammered that in, that got that out, and then literally just keep wiggling around on the pulley wheel, pulling on it, and it's just got a slight chamfer on that. That comes off, which then you are then able to get to the bolts behind it. There's 3 of them, which bolt there. Take those 3 out, take the one out on the back, and then the pump just slides out, and that's the point. What I've done is I am just going to get a new one of these, but just for my own curiosity, I wanted to have a look inside it. I know I'm not going to be able to do anything with it. I'll just show you, may as well. You can have a look, see what it's like in here. So that's going to turn. So that stays still, that turns, and these fins must by centrifugal force fly out and go back in again, depending on whether it's in the high spot or low spot, and pulls the fluid through. So I'm going to get a new one of them, clean this up, get some new bolts, get this bolted back in there, put it back on, fan belt, fluid, and we'll see what it's like after then. One of the other things I'm working on is, because I've now had all this off, I can see I do actually have a little bit of an oil leak which I think is coming from here, behind here. So I'm gonna have to look at how I go about getting this off. And also, oh, did you just see that then? Water dripped. So I've got a little bit of a water leak also on that there. We see where the blue clip is. There's water coming through a bolt holding that on. So I've got to get that off now. Also, what I've also done is got the sump nut finally loose. So I've got a whole host of jobs I can do now. I'm going to order a new sump nut because that is absolutely mangled, but I managed to hammer a smaller size socket on and use a breaker bar. That's finally come out, so I can finally dump my oil, do an oil change, put a new oil filter on. So I'm going to order a sump nut. I'm going to order a steering pump, and I'm going to get this part off for the water. I've just dumped the water out. I'm going to order the part for that. So that's the coolant, the steering, the oil. It's quite a bit to do. I decided to remove the radiator. I've had the radiator in and out a couple of times, so all the bolts are easy, the pipe work, I know where everything goes now. To take the whole radiator out, the easiest thing to do if it's never been out before, the radiator pipe for the power steering runs across here, which is this. And if you only want to take the radiator out without disconnecting all of your power steering fluid lines, if you cut a notch there and there, just cut those notches in, and you can just unhook the pipe off, slip it off over the top, and it means you can leave all of that connected in then. Fix in, pull it forward into the service position, cut the notches if they're not already done, slip this off. You just squeeze the brackets, little plastic brackets, little clips in, you just squeeze them together and you pop them out of there. Very self-explanatory when you see it. Before you take it out, just disconnect those wires for the fans, and there's one there for your radiator, plugs into the side of the radiator. Take that out, and I think that's about it. There's pipe work, sorry, you got that one. Squeeze that together, pull it off. There's one there which goes on the bottom corner, squeeze that, take that off. And the last one, easiest thing, is just to take it off there, which is that one. So you have 3 water pipe hoses, a couple of bolts, and those 2 clips and that clip for your electrics. Very straightforward, takes a couple of minutes to take out really. That has now given me much better access to get to, where are we? There. That bolt there. Trying to do that from down there is just blind, so I just thought make life easy. I can get to there now. So there's 2 bolts holding that in. If I hold it at that angle, you can see where there's one that you get from here, and there's the other one which I actually found easier just to get from underneath. There, so you can get to it directly from through that gap. And that is where my leak was coming from. So I can only imagine that this rubber seal here is just allowing water to trickle past. So whether you can just get a replacement seal or get the whole unit. I think I've already seen these online when I was looking at this a few months ago. So it's 2 cable connectors. I'm just gonna mark up what goes where, put some labels on. see if there's anything I can do with this, maybe just order another. I've spotted it. See that hairline crack? It goes behind the water seal. Look at that there. So there's a crack in the plastic and it goes behind the water seal and comes out there. So basically the water is just bypassing the seal. You little bugger. I'll see if I can find one of these. So the part number is a 074121133B BPO. Now, I've just googled that and it does actually find this part, but it's a foreign website, so I want to see if I find somebody in the UK with one of these.